You see, when we speak of faith, most people think it means believing in something, believing in an idea, a doctrine, a proposition about life, about God, about the universe. But that's not quite it. Faith, in its deepest sense, is not about holding onto a fixed set of answers. It's not about clutching onto a creed, white-knuckled, afraid that if we let go, we'll fall into chaos. No, faith is more like letting go itself, like a leaf that falls from the tree, spinning gently, trusting the wind will carry it somewhere, even if it doesn't know where. To really have faith is to step into the unknown, to float in the sea without insisting on reaching the shore. It's to trust the process of life, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's frightening. You don't sit at the edge of the ocean, demanding the waves explain themselves before you swim. You simply dive in, you play with the water, you participate. Most of us are trained to think that faith is a kind of insurance policy. If I believe the right things, if I follow the right rules, then surely I'll be safe. But faith isn't about safety. It's about the willingness to risk, to venture into territory where the maps stop and the signposts vanish. It's about standing at the edge of a cliff and knowing you've got wings you've never tested, and still jumping. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to control everything, when you stop grasping at certainty, that's precisely when a deeper trust arises. Faith is like opening your hands, like relaxing the muscles you've been tensing for years. It's saying yes to the whole of it, the light and the dark, the joy and the pain, without insisting that life fit into your tidy little box. Faith is not opposed to doubt. In fact, it includes doubt. It makes room for doubt, for mystery, for surprise. It is, after all, a kind of dance, a movement between knowing and not knowing, between holding and releasing, between the question and the silence that follows. And so, to really have faith is not to possess an answer. It's to live without one, and yet still move forward, still love, still create, still sing. It's to lean into the very mystery that terrifies you and find that, somehow, it holds you. Because in the end, the universe isn't a problem to be solved. It's a reality to be experienced. And faith is the courage to experience it fully, without guarantees, without a safety net. Just the raw, open-hearted participation in the wonder of it all. You see, when we talk about faith, most people imagine it as something you hold on to, something firm, solid, as if faith were a rock you grip tightly in a storm, afraid that if you loosen your fingers even a little, you'll be swept away into chaos. But the curious thing is that true faith is quite the opposite. Faith is not clinging, it's letting go. Now, this seems almost absurd to the logical mind. We've been taught from the very beginning that to be safe, we must hold fast. To be secure, we must cling. We grasp at beliefs, at structures, at doctrines, thinking they will keep us from falling. But clinging creates tension. Clinging creates fear. Imagine hanging from a cliff by a rope, your hands burning, your arms trembling. All your energy is spent in not letting go, and yet the more you cling, the more you suffer. But what if the thing you were so afraid of letting go into was not a void, not an abyss, but a vast openness, a current that would carry you like a river carries a leaf? Faith is the willingness to release your grip and trust the flow, not because you've calculated its direction, not because you've mapped its course, but because you understand that life itself is movement, is change, is fluidity. And clinging to any fixed point is to resist the very nature of reality. You see, everything is in motion. The stars spin in their galaxies, the tides rise and fall, your breath comes and goes, thoughts appear and vanish, feelings surge and dissolve. To cling is to try to freeze the river, to try to capture the wind in a box. And when you do that, you stop participating in the dance. You become rigid, afraid, but life is a dance, not a march toward a fixed destination. It swirls, it spins, it leaps, it falls, and faith is dancing along even when you don't know the steps. People often ask, but if I let go, won't I fall? Won't everything collapse? And here's the great joke. You've already been held all along. The universe has been carrying you, breathing you, moving you from moment to moment. It was never really up to your clinging fingers to hold it all together. Letting go is not the same as giving up. It's the recognition that you were never separate from the whole in the first place. When we cling, we create an illusion of control. We think, if I hold on tight enough, if I hold on to my ideas, my possessions, my identity, then I'll be safe. But faith whispers something different. It says, let go and see. Faith is the trust that you can release your grasp on certainty, on knowing, and still be carried, still be held by something deeper than the mind can grasp. It's like when you float on water. The more you struggle, the more you sink. The more you try to control the water, the less it supports you. But the moment you relax, the water holds you effortlessly. Faith is that relaxation. It's that surrender, not as a defeat, but as an act of profound trust in the nature of things. And of course, the mind rebels against this. It wants guarantees. It wants something to cling to, something permanent, something unchanging. But life offers no such thing. Everything passes. Everything transforms. To have faith is to be at peace with that impermanence, to let go of needing the ground beneath your feet to be solid, and instead to learn to surf the waves. And in that letting go, a strange thing happens. You find a deeper kind of strength. Not the brittle strength of rigid defenses, but the flexible strength of the reed that bends in the wind without breaking. You discover an openness, a spaciousness, a lightness of being. You are no longer fighting the current, but moving with it, trusting it, becoming it. So faith is not about holding fast to a belief, not about shouting over the noise of uncertainty, I'm right, I'm certain. Faith is the quiet, gentle willingness to release that need to be right, that need to be certain, and to rest in the mystery itself. To float, to fly, to fall, knowing that whatever happens, you belong to the whole, and perhaps that's the secret. We are all already part of the dance. We are already being breathed, already being lived. Faith is simply the recognition of this, and the letting go of our illusion that we were ever in control. It's a paradox. The more you let go, the more you are carried. The more you surrender, the freer you become. Faith is not clinging, it's letting go, and in that letting go, you don't lose the world, you gain it. You don't fall into nothingness, you fall into everything. You know, when we speak of faith, there's often this quiet assumption lurking beneath the surface that faith is really about securing something, a kind of inner insurance policy. If I believe hard enough, if I trust the right things, if I say the right prayers or follow the right rules, then surely I'll be protected. Surely I'll be rewarded. But that's not really faith. That's a bargain. That's a contract disguised as trust. Real faith, the living, breathing, dangerous thing, is something altogether different. Faith, in its deepest sense, is trusting the unknown without demanding guarantees. It's stepping into the mystery, into the fog, into the place where your maps don't work anymore, and still walking forward. It's standing at the edge of everything you've ever known and saying, yes, I'll go, even when you have no idea what's waiting beyond the edge. You see, most of us want life to make promises to us. We want some divine assurance. If I do this, then that will happen. If I'm good, I'll be rewarded. If I follow the path, it will lead somewhere safe. And in a way, that's natural. We've been taught to think that security is the highest goal, that if we can just arrange life carefully enough, we'll be spared the pain, spared the loss, spared the uncertainty. But life doesn't make such promises. It never has. Life is wild. It's unpredictable. It's a flowing river that changes course, floods its banks, dries up and reappears somewhere else entirely. And to have faith is not to demand that the river follow your plan. Faith is to get in the boat, push off from the shore, and trust the current, even though you don't know where it leads. We've been conditioned to think that trust must be earned, that it must be based on something solid, something proven. But faith asks you to trust before the evidence arrives, to trust without the evidence arriving, to lean back into the unknown without guarantees, without a safety net, and discover that even in the uncertainty, you are still held. The mind doesn't like this. The mind wants control. The mind wants to know. It's always reaching forward, grasping, trying to pin things down. It says, "Tell me the outcome first, then I'll act, then I'll believe." But life doesn't work that way. Life is more like a dance than a machine, and you don't ask a dance for its destination. You simply dance, you move with it, you let it carry you, step by step, moment by moment. Faith, then, is not an answer. It's not a conclusion, it's an attitude, a posture of openness. It's a willingness to step into what you don't know, what you can't control, and what you may never understand. And this takes courage, a quiet, steady courage, because it means letting go of the need for certainty, letting go of the demand that life explain itself to you. People often think faith is about believing in something, a deity, a doctrine, an afterlife. But faith is deeper than belief. Belief clings. Faith lets go. Belief says, "I've got it figured out." Faith says, "I don't know, and I'm willing to walk anyway." Belief builds walls. Faith opens doors. Belief closes the circle. Faith steps outside the circle and keeps moving. And so, to really have faith is to trust that you don't need to know everything, that you don't need to predict the next step to take it. It's to live in a kind of surrender, not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of trust. A trust that says, "I may not know where this road leads, but I will walk it. I may not know what tomorrow brings, but I will show up for it. I may not know what I will become, but I will become." And here's the paradox. In trusting the unknown, you find a deeper kind of security. Not the brittle, fragile security that comes from trying to control everything, but the strong, supple security of being at home in the mystery, of knowing that even without guarantees, you are part of something vast, something alive, something infinitely more mysterious than any plan you could devise. So faith is not a promise that life will go your way. It's not a magic key that unlocks only pleasure and spares you pain. Faith is what holds you when nothing else does. Faith is what keeps you moving when the lights go out and the path disappears beneath your feet. Faith is trusting that the ground will rise to meet you, even if you can't yet see it. And in this trust, you don't avoid life's uncertainties. You embrace them. You learn to see the unknown not as a threat, but as an invitation, an adventure, a dance. Faith is stepping onto the dance floor, even when you can't hear the music yet, and moving anyway. Because in the end, faith isn't something you hold. It's something that holds you. When we speak of faith, there's often this subtle, unspoken idea that it's about gaining control. That if you have enough faith, faith in God, faith in life, faith in some higher plan, then things will go the way you want. That faith is a lever, a tool, a mechanism to secure a particular outcome, but that's not faith at all. That's bargaining, that's a transaction. Faith is something far deeper, far freer. Faith is not control. Faith is participation. You see, we've been taught that life is something we must master, that the world is a problem to be solved, a machine to be operated, a system to be understood, so that we can manipulate it in our favor. But what if life is not a machine at all? What if life is more like a dance? And if life is a dance, then faith is not about grabbing the reins, yanking the strings, or directing the show. Faith is about joining the dance, even if you don't know all the steps. Even if the music changes, even if the rhythm surprises you. To participate in life rather than control it is to step out of the illusion that you are somehow separate from the process. We often imagine ourselves as outsiders looking in, as if life is happening to us, and we must find the secret code to bend it to our will. But the truth is, we are life itself. You are not a puppet being pulled by strings from above, nor are you the puppeteer holding the strings. You are the dance, the dancer, and the music all at once. Faith, then, is the willingness to move with life without demanding that it obey your plan. It's the trust that even if you don't understand the pattern, you are still part of it. The trees don't demand to know why they grow. The stars don't insist on controlling their orbits. The waves don't negotiate with the tide. They simply move because movement is their nature. Faith is moving with your nature. Not fighting it, not conquering it, but flowing with it. The more we try to control life, the more tense we become. We grip, we grasp, we tighten. We build walls, draw boundaries, set rules. We say, this is how it must be. This is the right way. This is the outcome I require. And when life doesn't comply, because life never fully complies, we suffer, we rage, we fear. But participation is a different approach. Participation says, I don't have to control the river to swim in it. I don't have to command the wind to sail with it. I don't have to rearrange the stars to marvel at them. And so faith is an openness, a willingness to be part of something larger than yourself without needing to dictate its course. It's like jazz, you see. In jazz, there's no script in the usual sense. There's a flow, a listening, a responding. And the beauty of the music comes precisely from not knowing what will come next. Faith is the trust to keep playing, to keep improvising, even when the melody takes unexpected turns. People often think faith is a kind of certainty, a solid ground beneath your feet. But faith is more like a dance floor that moves as you dance. It's more like walking on water than standing on stone. It's not about having the answers, but about being willing to stay in the question, being willing to live in the unfolding mystery without reducing it to something you can grip in your hands. And in that participation, a strange thing happens. You find a deeper harmony. Not because you've controlled the music, but because you've listened so closely, you've allowed yourself to be carried by it. You become part of the rhythm, part of the flow, part of the whole. Faith is not sitting in the audience critiquing the performance. It's getting up on stage and dancing, even if you forget the steps, even if you stumble, even if you laugh at yourself halfway through. It's tempting to think that control will make us safe, but control is brittle. Control is fragile. Every plan, every strategy, every grasping for certainty can shatter in a moment. Participation, on the other hand, is resilient. It bends, it adapts, it flows. It allows you to stay connected even when everything changes, even when nothing goes according to plan. And so faith is not something you wield to command life. It's something you offer to life. It's a kind of surrender, not of defeat, but of trust. A trust that says, I will show up, I will dance, I will sing along, I will be part of this, even if I don't control it, even if I never understand it fully. Because in the end, to participate is to belong. To belong is to trust. And to trust is to have faith. not in the certainty of outcomes, but in the wonder of the process itself. We often confuse faith with belief, as though faith were simply a matter of agreeing to certain propositions, of holding particular ideas in the mind and defending them as true. We imagine faith as a checklist of doctrines, a set of statements we sign at the bottom. I believe in this, I believe in that. But faith is not a collection of beliefs. Faith arises from something much deeper, something far more intimate. Faith arises from surrender. Belief is like holding on. It's gripping an idea, a conviction, a framework, and refusing to let it go even when reality shifts, even when life invites you into something bigger. Belief builds walls, fences, structures meant to secure us against the unknown. But faith doesn't secure you against the unknown. Faith invites you into the unknown. Belief wants to map the territory. Faith says, let's walk it. You see, surrender is not the same as giving up. It's not the collapse of the will. Surrender is the act of opening. It's the willingness to let go of your grip on certainty, to loosen your clenched fists around what you think must be true, and to fall. Yes, to fall into the deeper mystery of life. And it's in this falling that faith arises, not as an answer, but as a way of being. The trouble is, we've been taught that control is the key to security, that if we can just understand everything, predict everything, name everything, we'll be safe. And so we cling to beliefs like lifeboats in a vast and swirling ocean. We say, this is my truth, this is my certainty, this is my answer. And yet life keeps moving, keeps flowing, keeps changing. The ocean doesn't stop because we built a boat. The waves don't pause because we drew a map. Faith, then, is not standing on a platform of unshakable beliefs. Faith is stepping off the platform entirely. It's leaping into the water, trusting the current even though you can't see the shore. It's not faith because you're sure of where you're going. It's faith precisely because you aren't sure, and you go anyway. Belief is about holding on. Faith is about letting go. And it's only when we let go, when we release our need to grasp, to possess, to define, that faith can actually arise in us. Like breath filling the lungs only after we've exhaled, faith comes rushing in when we've made space for it. But if we're already full of certainties, full of rigid beliefs, there's no room left. This is why surrender is so essential. Surrender is the clearing of the space. It's the emptying of the cup. It's the recognition that we do not stand above life, managing it like a machine. We are part of life, woven into its mystery, participating in its unfolding. And to surrender is to admit this, not with resignation, but with reverence. Belief often gives us the illusion of control. If I believe the right things, I'll be saved. If I believe hard enough, life will protect me. But faith doesn't operate that way. Faith doesn't come with guarantees. Faith isn't a transaction. Faith doesn't say, believe this and I'll give you that. Faith says, trust me and let's see what happens. And here's the paradox. In surrendering, we discover a deeper strength than belief ever gave us. Belief may shield us for a time, but it's fragile. One contradiction, one disappointment, one unexpected turn, and belief begins to crumble. Faith, on the other hand, is supple, flexible, alive. Faith can bend because it isn't fixed on certainties. Faith can flow because it doesn't need to hold. Imagine a dancer. Belief is like dancing only the steps you've memorized, afraid to deviate, afraid to make a mistake. Faith is dancing even when the music changes, even when you forget the steps, even when the floor shifts beneath you. Faith is trusting the dance itself, trusting your body, trusting the rhythm. Not because you know how it will go, but because you've surrendered to the movement. And so faith arises, not from a clenched mind, but from an open heart. Not from an argument won, but from a question embraced. Not from a map, but from the willingness to walk without one. Faith is the courage to face life not with answers, but with wonder, not with control, but with participation. When we surrender, we stop trying to make life fit our little boxes. We stop insisting that the universe conform to our ideas. We let life be what it is. And in doing so, we find that life holds us in ways we never imagined. That beneath the uncertainty, beneath the unknowing, there is a trust deeper than belief, wider than doctrine, freer than certainty. This trust, this faith, is not something we manufacture. It's something we fall into when we stop trying to control the fall. It's what happens when we realize we never needed to grip so tightly, never needed to fight so hard to hold the world together. The world holds itself, life carries itself, and faith is simply letting it carry you too. Because in the end, faith doesn't arise from what you think. It arises from what you're willing to release, from the surrender that makes space for grace, from the openness that allows life to surprise you again and again. And in that surrender you discover faith was there all along. Faith is often misunderstood as a kind of certainty, as if to have faith means to know something beyond all doubt, to have absolute assurance in the outcome. But the paradox is that faith is not certainty at all. Faith is not about clinging to answers or securing guarantees. Faith is, instead, dancing with uncertainty. Imagine life not as a problem to be solved, but as a song to be sung, a rhythm to be felt, a dance to be danced. And what is a dance? A dance is not a straight line from point A to point B. A dance is not a mechanical march, where every step is predetermined and every motion calculated. A dance is fluid, spontaneous, alive. It invites you to move without always knowing where the next step will land. And so faith is like this. Faith is the willingness to move, to step forward, even when you cannot see the whole path. Even when the music shifts unexpectedly, even when the tempo changes, even when the floor beneath your feet feels unsteady. Faith is the trust that you are part of the dance itself, that you are not separate from the music, but woven into it. The trouble is, we've been taught to fear uncertainty. We've been told that not knowing is dangerous, that it's something to be avoided, something to conquer. We seek plans, formulas, guarantees. We want life to be predictable, stable, reliable. And yet life is never entirely predictable. Life is never fully under control. Life is always, in some measure, uncertain. And this is not a flaw. This is not a defect. This is the very nature of life. The universe itself, from the spinning of galaxies to the flickering of atoms, moves in patterns that are dynamic, unpredictable, and open-ended. To live, then, is to live within this dance of uncertainty. And faith is not the refusal to acknowledge uncertainty. It is the embrace of it. Faith says, I will step onto the dance floor even though I do not know every move. Faith says, I will follow the music even though I cannot predict every note. Faith is not the elimination of doubt, but the ability to keep dancing with doubt, to let doubt swirl around you without paralyzing you. We often imagine that if we had enough faith, we wouldn't feel fear. But faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is moving forward with fear. Faith is the courage to remain open, to keep participating, to stay in the flow, even when the outcome is hidden, even when tomorrow is a mystery. Think of a child learning to dance. The child doesn't begin with perfect steps, with flawless technique. The child stumbles, improvises, laughs, tries again. The child's dance is messy, unpredictable, but radiant with life. Faith is like this. Faith is not about perfection. It's about participation. It's about daring to show up, daring to move, daring to risk being clumsy, daring to trust that something beautiful is unfolding even if you cannot see its final shape. And here's the strange thing. When we let go of the need for certainty, we find a deeper kind of freedom, the freedom to be surprised, the freedom to grow, the freedom to discover. If every answer were already known, if every step were already fixed, there would be no room for wonder, no space for transformation. But uncertainty leaves room for grace, for delight, for possibilities beyond what we could have imagined. Faith, then, is not a rigid structure. It is a dance that bends and sways. Faith is not a fortress against the unknown. It is a bridge into it. Faith invites us to say yes to life, even when life refuses to be neatly packaged, even when life does not follow our script. And so, to have faith is not to stand still waiting for proof. It is to move, to live, to breathe, to act, not because you are certain, but because you are willing to enter the mystery. Faith is the openness to participate in the unfolding story without demanding that the ending be revealed in advance. In this way, faith is playful. It is not heavy with obligation. It is light, like a dance. It invites joy even amid difficulty. It invites trust even amid doubt. It invites movement even when standing still feels safer. We don't dance to get somewhere. We dance because the dancing itself is meaningful. Faith is like that. Faith doesn't demand a final answer before it begins. Faith moves, spins, leaps, twirls. Faith lets the mystery be what it is without needing to conquer it. And as you dance with uncertainty, you may find that the very ground you feared would collapse beneath you becomes the floor that carries you, that the very unknown you resisted holds possibilities richer than your certainties could have offered, that the dance itself, the participation, the movement, the openness, is enough. Faith is not knowing every step in advance. Faith is dancing anyway. We live in a world obsessed with tomorrow. From the moment we wake up, our minds are already racing ahead, planning, scheming, anticipating, worrying. We've been taught to treat life as a problem to be solved, as a ladder to be climbed, as a game of chess where every move must be calculated in advance. And yet, the more we try to grasp the future, the more anxious we become. The more we try to hold on to what hasn't yet arrived, the more it slips through our fingers. Faith, you see, is something very different. Faith is not grasping. Faith is not about securing guarantees for what's coming. Faith is living in the present without grasping for the future. It is a profound trust in the flow of life itself, here and now, without the need to clutch at what lies ahead. Imagine standing by a river. The water moves endlessly forward, carrying leaves, twigs, reflections of the sky. Now you could try to scoop the river into a bucket, to hold it, to keep it still. But in doing so, you no longer have the river. You have stagnant water. The river can only be what it is by flowing. And life, too, can only be what it is by moving, by changing, by unfolding in its own time. Faith is standing at the river's edge, watching the water go, watching the water come, and trusting the river's movement without needing to dam it, without needing to control where it leads. It's the recognition that life doesn't need to be forced into a shape. It already has its own rhythm, its own unfolding mystery, but we've been conditioned to resist this. We live in a culture that tells us, plan ahead, think ahead, secure your future, ensure your future, build your future. We imagine that the more we prepare, the safer we'll be, but life isn't a straight line from point A to point B. It's more like music, And the beauty of music is not in the final chord. It's in the playing of it, moment by moment, note by note. To have faith is to hear life's music and dance to it now, without anxiously asking what the next song will be. Faith is not a strategy for securing the future. Faith is an invitation to be fully here, to taste, to touch, to feel, to experience this moment. Because this moment is the only place life ever happens. Grasping for the future pulls us out of the present. It makes us miss what is right in front of us. We become so busy trying to get somewhere that we forget we're already somewhere. We forget that the journey is the destination. Faith reminds us you don't need to grip the future to be safe. You don't need to predict every turn to belong. You are already part of the unfolding whole. And here's the paradox. The more we try to control the future, the more anxious we become. The tighter we grasp, the more life resists our grip. Like trying to hold water in your hands, the tighter you squeeze, the faster it leaks out. But when you relax your hands, when you open them, the water rests in your palms. Faith is that open hand. Faith is the willingness to let life flow through you, to meet each moment as it comes, without needing to trap it, define it, or guarantee what comes next. Faith is not passive. It's not resignation. It's not saying, oh well, whatever happens, happens. A faith is a kind of vibrant participation, a wholehearted yes to the present moment, even without knowing what's around the corner. It's a trust so deep that you no longer need to demand certainty from life. You no longer need to hold life hostage to your expectations. When we live in faith, we stop trying to bargain with the future. We stop saying, I'll be happy when, or I'll be at peace if. We discover that peace, that joy, that freedom are already available, right here, in this very breath, in this very step. Faith is leaning into the present moment, not as a stepping stone to somewhere else, but as its own fulfillment. And when we live like this, something remarkable happens. We begin to notice the small miracles we once overlooked. The way sunlight filters through a tree, the laughter of a child, the warmth of a cup of tea. We realize that the richness of life is not hidden in the future, waiting to be unlocked. It's woven into the very fabric of now. Faith is trusting that this moment is enough, that you are enough, that life, even with its uncertainty, its impermanence, its unpredictability, is holding you. Faith is no longer postponing your joy until all the pieces fall into place. It's dancing in the middle of the unfinished puzzle, knowing that the dance itself is the answer. And so, to live in faith is to let go of grasping, to release the frantic reaching into tomorrow, and to come home. Home to the sacredness of the present, home to the ever unfolding mystery of now. Faith is living here. Not there, not then, but here. And in living here, we find that what we were chasing was never missing. It was always right here, waiting for us to stop and see.